Hey, what's good, my amazing friends? Hey, welcome to The Remedy. I'm going to just start adding the cool kids to the roundtable. Welcome, Darren from Get on the Arc podcast, and welcome, Courtney from Patriot Strong podcast. And we're going to have other folks joining the roundtable, hopefully, as their schedule allows in their daily lives. But anyway, welcome. Thank you to the people who are already tuning in. We already have people watching, which is awesome. And Darren and Courtney, yay! I'm so excited to be hanging out with you guys. It's the best. So, and I wore my Abe Lincoln shirt, and I've got my Trump Take America Back trucker hat going on. So we're bringing patriotism, we're bringing patriotism back. What? Anyway, Darren, how are you?
Good, doing fantastic.
Right on. Courtney, how are you?
Good. Staying busy, trying to keep up with everything going on locally, especially today.
Yeah, so let's just dive right into the subjects. Courtney, you were just talking about this. Was it an explosion? What happened? Talk about what's going on with this chemical spill that's happening in Ohio.
So I'm getting conflicting stories that it was a derailment and something hit one of the parts of one of the train cars, and it's letting off this extremely toxic chemical into the air. Coincidentally, it's not rained here for 2 months, and we've had a downpour all day long. So that's now, I think, just taking everything that is putting up in the air 37 miles away to all the other parts of the state. Um, and again, it's happening again. And see, the thing of what it is, if it's not a derailment, the video that I seen, the train was stopped. It's not like it was moving and letting something out. It was stopped. And it's just been going off for 45, 50 minutes at the time whenever I was talking to you guys about it. But why? Why again? It was so bad the last time whenever it was in East Palestine, Ohio.
And how far away are you from that area?
From where it was today, about 40 minutes away. It's the next county over.
Well, the East Palestine one.
East Palestine is way up north, and
Okay.
we're kind of southwest.
All right. And so what effects are you seeing? I mean, I hopefully the rain helps keep some of the stuff contained. I guess it doesn't go so much into the sky, but
I was kind of reading about some of the side effects that if you are exposed to this chemical, and I forget what it is off the top of my head right now. But it's drowsiness, forgetfulness. It has digestive issues. If you breathe in the chemical, it can go into your intestinal kind of pathway and cause problems that way.
yikes.
Dizziness, tiredness, skin outbreaks. It's just a whole slew of things. It's interesting though, just reading into it.
It's interesting how many have happened. I don't know if they are deliberately being caused. I don't know if, I mean, it's too coincidental that they're all happening right now. And so I guess what I really and if you're watching and you maybe know this answer, go ahead and comment on the show, and we can see your comments live as they're coming in. Whatever platform you're watching from, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Rumble, we are live on X, and we're live on Darren's Get on the Arc X account, and on Courtney's Patriot Facebook. So we're live in a bunch of different places. So wherever you're from, we can see your comments. And so, write in. But my question really would be, I don't know, are they doing this deliberately, or have these chemical spills always been happening? They're just reporting it more, which is then getting people more in a tizzy. I guess that would be what do you guys think?
I kind of think that they are happening on purpose for one reason or another to kind of corral people in whatever way that they can. I was having different conversations on the thread on my Facebook. If my friends, you guys are watching it, go to that thread, read through the comments. It's really interesting just to get everybody's perspective. I also heard that there was a gas leak somewhere in Texas. Somebody said on like in the thread. I'm not sure where
Yeah.
in Texas it was.
Yeah, and that was somewhere in West Texas that happened, which is really far from where we live, in South Central Texas. But yeah, so that went on, and there was something that happened in Houston a year or two ago, and then the one in East Palestine, and it's very interesting. Just I know I'm forgetting a bunch of other ones that happened, but it was just, and for lack of a better term, boom, boom, boom. They were all just happening, and it's too coincidental to not be a coincidence. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, hopefully you guys out there in Ohio area are not, that's not going to provide too much of an issue. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about it. It's
Right
it's
after.
shocking. There's just I feel like there's so many avenues and areas coming in. Today I saw someone who was like, and we'll get into the P. Diddy stuff. Somebody had messaged me and said, "Hey, are you guys going to talk about this?" Yes, we'll talk about this. And then I saw someone else post and they said, "Don't be distracted by this. This whole thing is trying to be a distraction." And I feel like as a truther, as somebody who's out here, and let me know, you guys, if you feel this way too. In this truther community, there's so many things happening all over the world, all happening all at the same time. And I feel like if you focus on any one thing, everyone says, well, you're being distracted from this or that. And I don't feel like you're being distracted from anything. I feel like it's all relevant to talk about. And they're literally just throwing spaghetti against the wall, like handfuls of spaghetti, and seeing what sticks, I guess, is that's my take. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think all this stuff that's happening, and I think there's so many people that are not awake. That it's like this couldn't happen here, or this. They're afraid to look at the truth, because the truth is pretty scary. If you really, I mean, it's scary to the fact that it goes against everything we've been taught. Like we've been programmed to think all this other stuff. So it's I just encourage people that when the P. Diddy arrest, if you look at all the people that he's associated with and all the parties and the just disgusting evil that he's associated with and what they've been doing, it's really, I hope it just wakes people up and people start paying attention. It's interesting that all the guests on the P. Diddy freak out parties or whatever they're called, those are all those guests are now endorsing Kamala.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Right.
You follow the trail and you start looking at what's really going on in our country.
Right.
And I had heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, and I forget which platform I was listening to, but somebody said that they have a theory that the FBI is holding on to all of those P. Diddy files, P. Diddy videos, all of that stuff for everybody that's involved. And they're kind of giving them like a blackmail, an ultimatum. Hey, come out and endorse Kamala, or we're going to release your affiliation with P. Diddy and your affiliation with all of this stuff. So it kind of is like getting all of, whoever celebrity, all of their following behind Kamala if people are that stupid just to blindly follow, people that they like in Hollywood. So that would be interesting to see if that comes out as truth or not.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Darren.
I was going to say, it's for us that have been following this movement and looking, discerning events and looking at people and following what do they support, who is around them, and so it's obvious to us good and evil, right? We see it, but to me it's it's unbelievable how quickly people can be programmed. Like the fact that we're even talking about Kamala Harris as being a candidate to run for the United States presidency is so ridiculous. And there's people that will fight for that. That's how programmed these people are. And if you look at the track record, you look, I've been in business my whole life, and I always wherever whenever I do something, I look at someone that's successful and I want to model that success. If you look at Kamala's track record, she basically destroyed San Francisco, burned it to the ground, has all that. And you think, well, yeah, let's reproduce that for the country. Like that to me it's just ridiculous. But people will fight for her because they're programming everyone to hate Trump, and they don't even know why they hate him. They're just being told that you need to hate this man. He's evil, bad, and they're basically everything that the other side is doing, they're projecting it on Donald Trump, and people are buying it and believing it. And I know more people are waking up, but that's how I feel about all these Hollywood actors and sports and musicians, and they're the problem.
Yeah, totally.
I was just going to interject really fast. What's so funny to me, going back to the debates, I know that we have spoken about the debates since then, but for those of you that are watching, I know so many people that are like, oh my gosh, yeah, Kamala totally won that debate. Like, she was so smart with her answers, and like, so she spoke so much more eloquently than Trump did. Like, first of all, can you step back and show me one other time that she could develop those kind of answers, like that much in depth, so eloquently, on the spot, and any other time? Like, literally every other time I've heard her speak, it's just been babbling in circles, not making any sense of anything, not making any point at all. And people are like behind this chick, and I really truly just don't understand it at all.
Well, it's like, where have they been the last 4 years? She's literally, every time she comes on the television, all she speaks in is, these crazy haikus, and she's been completely MIA, right? She's been like the worst. I wouldn't even say, the worst vice president. We've had some really bad vice presidents, but as far as vice presidents are concerned, she was pretty much MIA for the last 4 years. Only pop up to say something that was so incoherent it didn't even make sense. But then all of the sudden she's the savior, and people are, oh yeah, Kamala. And to that end, where is our president? Where is Joe? where he at? That's so crazy to me that he's incompetent enough to run for presidency, so they have to remove him, but he's still president right now, up until January. And then we have Jill, his wife, Dr. Jill, sitting in on a cabinet meeting. How in the world is she sitting in on a cabinet meeting? How in the world does the first lady have the clearance to sit in on a cabinet meeting for the United States cabinet? It's absolutely, it's lunacy. It's ludicrous. And then people eating it up with a spoon, it just is mind-boggling to me. Like, wake up.
I feel like that's where, like, people, like, you have to realize, you have to see how much of a joke this administration in this past 4 years have been. Like, they're not politically involved, not truly, not really. I was talking with one of my friends, and then we'll let Jason just hopped on, so we'll let him talk too. We just went back to the fact that whenever Biden did have his inauguration ceremony, that it was not on time. It was early. They missed out so much stuff. If you go back and look at them, and Sarah, I know that you and I have spoken about this before, you can see the back and forth kind of choppiness of the video clips, how obviously it was pre-recorded some, and then maybe cut like to a live version. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, you guys?
Right. None of it makes any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And what makes even less sense are people who are buying it. Like, I know that, yes, I feel like, and this is going back to 2017, and anybody who has been around to, those drops, those years ago, it has said that things are going to become more and more absurd, and at every level, more people wake up. And I feel like that is where we're living right now. We're living in bizarro world where people are buying the most ridiculous. And it's like, what are you doing? It's so absolutely It's asinine. It's totally asinine. Jason, welcome. So good that you have joined us. Jason is driving right now. He is traveling, but he hopped on. And so we want you to travel safe, brother. Drive safe.
We're good. Thanks for having me on. It's going to keep me awake. I got about 1,200 miles left. So
Where are
thank
you
you.
Wow.
going?
I'm headed home. I've been in the mountains for 12 days. I'm headed home from an elk hunt, my first ever elk hunt. So I've had a heck of a time, and we're headed back home. So
Did you get an elk?
I did not kill one. I'm telling you, if you guys know anyone that's ever killed an elk with the bow, you got to give them mad respect. They're the most smartest animal, the most difficult thing I've ever done. It has been, I told somebody it's the most difficult thing I've ever done that I could still call fun. So we got real close. But the adrenaline dump is so massive. That's why guys get addicted to it. I got the adrenaline dump, but we didn't get the elk.
Well, maybe one of these days we'll get Ted Nugent on here and he can chat with you about.
Come on,
about
bring him on,
elk
man.
hunting.
We and
Yep,
him, we
I
did
would
it
love
all.
that. I would love that.
Absolutely, yep. Hey, I want to real quick comment what you guys were saying about the delusion, right? That people are believing. I was at a rest area last night, and I don't know if you guys can see the shirt that I'm wearing. It says "You can't kill freedom." Has a picture of Trump on the back, and this guy walks up to me, and he was carrying 2 bags. I kind of thought he was a homeless guy at first, and I thought he was going to ask me for money. And he stopped, and he looked at me, and he kept walking, and he came back, and he was really, I mean, what I realized later is he was really bothered by my shirt, and ended up talking to this guy for almost 30 minutes. He was actually a truck driver, and absolute Trump derangement syndrome. And, I really just left realizing how the media has warped the minds of the people, and that's why they're believing the most craziest things. That's why they can't see, even with the P. Diddy arrest, with Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, they cannot see what's happening because they've been, well, obviously there's a spiritual component, but this is like probably a good man, a truck driver that thinks he literally said, Trump respects Hitler. I was like, what? He said, you want this country to be fascist. I said, what? Where are you getting this stuff? And, and at the end, the last 10 minutes, I just kept trying to tell this guy, look, we're both Americans. Let's not divide on Trump, Biden. They're both flawed human beings. We both want the First and Second Amendment, I'm sure. And then he started going off about how censorship is helping people when they're spreading lies. But I just wanted to bring that up because it's so, the delusion and the blindness. It made me think of the T-shirt that says, what does it say? Forget about the other sheep. Let's wake up the other lions. Because there's going to be, we've all heard people talk about, there's many people aren't going to make it. They're not going to be able to see the truth. And, with the P. Diddy stuff that's coming out, it's pretty amazing. But it's just really heartbreaking, man, to see people so delusional. Sometimes it's so bad. Sometimes I question myself, like, am I wrong? And obviously that's the definition of gaslighting. But man, guys, it's some people are never going to wake up.
Well, and we know that to be true. There are some people who are not going to wake up to it. But I think that even if we only wake up one more, it's worth it.
My audio off?
Nope, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, somebody froze up. What happened?
I think we're going. We're good. We're going.
I wanted to add a point. First of all, hi everyone.
Hi, Sarah. So Sarah has joined us.
Sarah.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Darren. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Jason. Hi, Sarah. Blondie.
Good to see
What's
you.
up? Blondie and Brownie. Here we are.
Yes, that's it. Blondie and Brownie. Or Blackie, really. Right? So I wanted to add something. I'm sorry I missed the very beginning, but I wanted to add something about the Hollywood response to what's happening with the P. Diddy. It is extremely quiet. it is rocking Hollywood in a
Mhm.
way that they're terrified. I don't know if you mentioned that in the beginning, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself.
We haven't even really
Oh.
really, dove into,
Oh, okay. Should I
we've only
save
just
that?
barely touched the surface.
Ah.
So, if you're just joining us, we have several topics. One of them that we're going to talk about is the UN vote. That was one that was we're going to discuss, hopefully, if we get there. That's a big one that's happened this last week. We're going to talk about, of course, the P. Diddy arrest and the raid and all of the things that are surrounding that and what those implications mean. It's not just about consenting adults doing things behind closed doors, which consenting adults, whether you agree with it or not, you can do your thing. It's far, far more reaching than that. And a lot of people are going to be exposed for doing things that are going to shock people who are not awake. And so, so Sarah, you can go ahead and dive into what you were saying about Hollywood, that it's the silence is deafening.
It sure is. It's so I've been hearing a lot of chatter from that past world that I used to be very involved with, not the cabal. Well, I didn't realize I was surrounded by them.
And for people who may not know who you are, Sarah, can you kind of give a brief background? Sarah was in New York, Broadway, Los Angeles. She is an IMDb actress who escaped the cabal in Hollywood. But Sarah has firsthand experience with all of this. And I mean, not firsthand experience with the P. Diddy freak parties, I don't think, but.
Oh, God, no. That would be horrifying.
Yeah, but it's, just
Yeah,
to
I'd
give
be dead
Sarah
by
a
now.
little, yeah.
I wouldn't even make it through the first door. So thank you, Sarah. So yes, I come from a 4-generation family of actors, musicians, and social activism, and came to America, continued theater, then went to Hollywood, and I spent 22 years there. Let's just put it this way. I thought I could go and really work hard and be a wonderful, successful actress that could change the world with amazing films I would make. And then I realized, holy moly, all the people that I used to admire, that I've worked with, that I used to be friends with, some of them who were very big names, I said, oh my gosh, they're from the lions, not from the lions, they're from the devil's den, right? I went from going to engagements, going to festivals, going to events, auditioning and working on very famous studio lots where I've shared this with Sarah before, where I would step onto the studio lots and something never felt right. My stomach would start curling. I'd start sweating. And I thought, I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand that what was happening actually literally beneath my feet was the gateway to hell for so many children and people who are being slaughtered in a way that was shocking, right? And the amount of people who would just let things go in this industry and put it under the guise of, well, that's just the way it is. I started to wake up during my career, realizing why I was never going quite to that next level, but all the time, God was protecting me from walking into a situation I probably wouldn't have come out alive if I had entered those doors and they had closed. But I knew a lot of these people. I saw how they behaved. I never felt comfortable. Thank God I had my husband with me. I think to be alone in this industry is very, very dangerous. I saw parents literally prostituting their children at auditions and would literally do anything for fame. It was disgusting. And then I realized that I didn't want to be anywhere near that stuff, especially when I started really waking up to the fact that I was literally meeting people who were so high up there in this cabal And it scared the hell out of me initially. Now I laugh at them because I'm a warrior against them and I fight for the children. And so what I have seen, a lot of the things I have seen, how I see the machinations of how, that's why I actually do have pictures with people I would never post today. And somebody asked me, oh, do you have pictures with so-and-so? I said, actually, I do, but I'm not going to post those anymore. Because that's why I think we need to be very careful in this truther world to be exercise a lot of discretion.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you're invited to these events, if you have not been around powerful people, very well-known people, if you haven't played in the political world and been around people, you don't understand what that really takes. You could be standing next to somebody, you could have a picture taken. Listen, I have photo shoots where I'm going like this and thought it was just artistic and cool. And
Right.
that can be that too. So I think we have to be very careful. And I mean this very strongly. I think for the audience out there, whoever's listening to this, especially if you call yourself a truther, be careful, everything's not satanic, okay? Not everything is what you think it is. You could be an innocent bystander because you just happen to be in that world.
Right.
So I say that because I think unless you've really known people who have worked, or you yourself have worked in those worlds, attending an event is not the same as being in the industry. Whether you're in a political, I had ties to the political industry and the entertainment industry. And of course, we know now they're completely connected, right? And all the 3-letter agencies. So that's all I really want to say about that. But yeah, it was scary. I mean, even me and my big mouth, I felt myself being silenced. I was actually told I was too smart to be, they thought I was a producer because they said, you're too smart to be an actress. So, and Sarah, you know some of it. You know this world too. It's
like what you were saying, to what you were saying, when you have been to kind of events or, been invited to events, or you've been on stage, say you're a speaker like I have been, and people come and they want to take pictures with you. And so you take pictures with people and the next person, and you smile and you take a picture, or you see somebody out and hey, oh yeah, I love your podcast. Can I take a picture with you? Sure. And so that kind of stuff happens. So when you get people who are like, well, here's a picture of Trump with P. Diddy, or here's a picture of Trump with Epstein, you have to be careful with the context of where those were taken, who it was, but even deeper than that, there's been an operation that is going on behind the scenes that, us truthers who've been awake have been talking for a long time about this trafficking and things that are going on that is, horrendous, that we've tried to, save the children was a huge hashtag that they really tried to shut down just a couple of years ago. And so all of these things we've been trying to say, this is what it's about. There's weird stuff going on behind the scenes. Oh, you're, truthers, or, you conspiracy theory, you're making up stuff. Nobody's doing that kind of stuff. Oh, yes, they are. And so, oh yeah, it was a big thing, that Epstein Island. Oh yeah, that's a conspiracy theory. There's no such thing. Yes, there is. And then, okay, well, there is such thing, but nobody has gone there. Okay, well, a bunch of people have gone there, but everything there was innocent. Okay, not everything was innocent, but some of them didn't know about it. There's just all these things. But back in the day, each step of the way, it's been that it, no, that's not happening. Okay, well, it is happening, but it's not happening like you think. Okay, it is happening like you think, but maybe not as bad as you think. Okay, it is as bad as you think, but and it's just like this constant gaslighting of information where we've dug through this stuff. It's been revealed. There are heroes and you guys, I'm talking, go ahead and jump in any of this conversation. You don't have to wait for me to get off my soapbox. But heroes like Julian Assange, who put his, whole reputation and life on the line to expose things that are going on, like the Anthony Weiner laptop and all that stuff. That was a part of one of my big rabbit hole awakenings of learning about, Pizzagate and, you know, all these other things, and, you know, learning about spirit cooking and all of these things that was totally just conspiracy theory, but now has been totally proven. And now it's part of even the regular normies vernacular, which is so bizarre to me when I hear people who are like, "Oh, I'm totally going to vote for the current administration." You know,
Regime.
right?
Yeah.
TDS people, total Trump derangement syndrome, but also then they're talking about things that we've been talking about for years, and like as if, you know, well, yeah, that's always been. It's like, no, you're the one who told me I was a weirdo for, you know.
But you know what I find funny is the ones who show the picture of Trump with, like, say, Diddy or any of the cabal people. That's the world that you were in then. I mean, it's like people act as though they knew Diddy was into all this stuff like 15, 20 years ago, right? They don't. A lot of people still don't, right? So and also too, what a lot of people forget to contextualize with Trump is, we have many sting operations and operations happening at the same time with Trump and the alliances.
Right.
B, when Trump knew what Epstein was, he was working with the FBI to gather evidence and information, and he severed every single one of his business deals with him.
And he's very openly said, Trump has very openly said, I was part of their world and I heard what they were doing, and I'm the one, you know, so he's like, whoa, yeah, I was part of this world. Yes, I did go to these things and he said, I heard what they said behind your back. And he's very famous for saying, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in their way. And that's a very, I mean, those are direct quotes from Trump. And so when people are like, oh, gotcha, you know, he hung out with these same people. Look at, here he is with Hillary Clinton. Yeah, he was playing a role, gathering intel. He's been part of, I mean, all of this stuff is documentable. This isn't some crazy rabbit hole that's hard to find. This is just even information that's out there. And
100%.
You know, the whole information. Yeah.
And also too, another part of the position that Trump was in, because again, like I said, I think on probably a couple of your other roundtables, is you can only exercise certain things when you are in the position of president. You can't do that if you're not a president.
Correct.
And a commander in chief, I should say, right? So when Trump also brought, anybody that thinks that Trump gaffes on purpose does not know who this man is. When he says certain things and when he highlights certain names, it's because he's getting you to pay attention to those names. Right. And then, like what he did with the farmer, he walks. Sometimes you have to walk through the front door and blow it up from the inside. And also another strategy of war is you have to know thy enemy very, very well. And you can't give all your chips up right away. Again, that's people who don't understand how war strategies work. No war is fought by saying, oh my gosh, I'm just going to tell you all the truth and then we're going to end this war. No. People go undercover for a reason, to blow things up from the inside. So again, you know what I mean? So that all those complexities and nuances in the dance of war are very tenuous and incredibly complex. So we can't expect for this to all be wrapped up in a pretty bow by Christmas, right? I mean, I wish it would, but
me too. Yeah. Well, the same is true with. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
Well, real quick, do you guys remember the statement Trump made way back? He said, I used to be part of the secret club, and because I was there and was part of it, now I'm the only one that can expose it. You guys remember that comment?
Right. Yep.
Right. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about.
Right. Do you, I don't know if this is kosher for this conversation, but you guys think there's any chance that he actually in that world? Do you think he was part of that world? And, you know, did he have an oath? I don't know if you know. I mean, I've just, when I saw the P. Diddy stuff, the Justin Bieber, how it wrapped up, I'm kind of wondering, maybe he was really in it, and that's why he was big part of this exposure.
Look, without me revealing too much, I can tell you for a fact he wasn't in it on the inside. Yeah. He frequented, there were, you know, you could go, like you can go to events. I've been to Masonic events, but I wasn't a member. And all Masons, most Masons have no freaking clue what the upper levels are doing, because until you hit a certain
right.
level of masonry, then you're asked to break certain sins, right? You're asked to perform certain sins. But most people, and this is how the Cabal do it, this is how the secret societies do it. It's a pyramid, right? So most of the people here, which is why, it's taken so long for people to wake up. Actually, they've woken up quite quickly over the last 4 years, which is exactly the point why the election had to be lost in the way it was, is because you had to wake people up. But most of the people who work in churches or Masonic churches, temples, they're actually good people. They don't really know what the hell's going on. It's when you start to go higher. Like even in Hollywood, most of the crew people, the people who are D, C, D actors, they have no clue. They just think it's a hard business and they're clueless, right? Sarah, you know this. But when you start to go higher up the echelon, that's when it gets crazy. Now with Trump, I can't really say too much, but he was not on the inside. Now, did he have to sometimes get in of certain circles, not necessarily the rituals? There's a difference. There's rituals and there's going to events and there's being invited. And as a president and as somebody who was very successful in his businesses, he would have been invited to some of these places, but they're not all bad. And I think that's one of the big grinds I have with some of these truthers. They blanket everything. It's like, and no wonder people don't listen, after a while.
Right.
It's nuanced. And to blanket it all, I think is very irresponsible, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the same is true. Like, I don't know if it was you, Sarah, if it was Jason, who it looks like Jason is dropped off, must have run through a cell handoff or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the same is true with with this arrest and subsequent suicide watch and all that kind of stuff with P. Diddy. That, he was actually arrested. What was it, a year ago when they raided originally, and then they had this this crazy mugshot, and like all the truthers were like, "That's not him. I don't know who this. I don't know who that Haitian guy is that they have on there, but it is not. That is not him." But they tried to pass it off, and some of the normies bought it, but most people were like, "You don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining." Like that's a no. But if people don't like, people are like, "Oh, he was finally caught." I'm like, no, he was caught like a year ago. And this is like the oldest trick in the book, where you catch, the criminal, and then you wire them up and then you send them back in. Like you were saying, sometimes you have to go in through the front door to blow it all up. And
100%.
I'm not in any way pro P. Diddy or anything like that. What he did in his life, he'll have to answer, to God for, and that's not here for me to talk about like that. But there were cameras there for a reason. There is some 3-letter agency involvement in all of this. It goes a lot higher than just Hollywood. There's some ties with political stuff that's going on and political blackmail that's going to be coming out. It's way deeper than, some, as I said at the beginning, some adults that are consenting. Like, well, I don't care if these, consenting adults are having relations behind closed doors. The problem with that too, though, is that these people have portrayed themselves as something in the public eye, and people believe that. And then behind the scenes, they're these, totally, doing stuff, including pastors. I mean, there's pastors there, there's Christian artists that are there. And if you think that hip hop is the only place where this is taking place, I mean, I saw that Chad Prather posted, and rightly so, guess what? Nashville's next. Mm-hmm. And if you think that it's not happening in every corner of that industry, you're in for a huge, rude awakening. And,
100%.
To all the people who would say, "Oh yeah, but not so-and-so," like it's, not Beyonce. I mean, Beyonce wouldn't be into it, or whatever. Like, listen to me.
Heads of the snakes.
And I mean, she was a bad example, but somebody who's America's sweetheart, let's say, in an industry.
Kelly Clarkson too. You
Yeah.
know?
Well,
What? I
don't
just
worry.
heard her
But
name.
different. What's
I
that,
know-
Courtney?
I just heard like somebody said Kelly Clarkson today in one of my threads. I have no idea anything about her, but that shocked me. Like it didn't surprise me, but it shocked me.
You know what it is, Courtney? Kelly Clarkson is okay, so they have different names for people. Some are, well, I won't say some of the really bad stuff, but I'll give an example. Some are like, you've got your little slave drivers, right? You've got your ones who'll do the bishop's work, and then sometimes you'll have ones that will do the work of the workhorses. So each level of this structure, you'll have like the ones who are the minions who just go out and they're they kind of get people to go on the bandwagon and have the same message. So Kelly Clarkson, because she is somebody that they look at like a Drew Barrymore as well. They are slavish. They're very, very slavish. They have a personality which is like, but then you can get them to do it. So what they do is they watch you, and they do this in the industry, which is why I always used to watch the kids when I was in the industry, and I used to watch their parents. And sometimes I'd go straight up and tell them straight out. I didn't care. But they watch you. They watch to see how you are. Are you oh my God, you're so nice. Oh. That means you're what you call a supplicant. Right? You take things to a certain level and they will get you. You see, the problem with someone like me, I'm a troublemaker because you can't buy me. And if somebody doesn't like me, I don't care. Like I really don't care because I know my own worth. So they zone in on you and they figure out where your selling point is. And that's how they determine who are the Diddy's in the world, who are the Kelly Clarksons in the world, who are the ones that just sweep behind and sweep all the shite up, right? It's like a whole organization. And that's why what Sarah was saying, yeah, it's going to be shocking because you realize even if they're stars, and usually they have to be a micro economy, right? That's the ones who are like the Gagas and the Beyoncés, they are what they call micro economies. That means that whenever their name is mentioned, that means X amount of thousands of people are hired because of their name. They can open stadiums, they can open events, they can sell, 1 billion tickets, whatever. So it's so strategic. And then you get to see who are the ones coming up that want it so much, and why, their mothers or somebody in their family end up dying quickly, right? Because they've sacrificed them. So yeah,
Right.
it's
Kanye talked about that.
Yes, his
Yeah.
mom was one of them. Right?
Yeah, I mean, he talks about that.
Yeah.
His mom. He talks about Michael Jordan. He talks about several people who those things, and yeah, it's. I mean that world is really crazy, and I think it's really going to mess a lot of people up when their idol, when they're American Idol, whatever. I'm not going to get into naming people, but if you have somebody who you're like, not them, if they're a household name, it's them. First of all, you don't get to be part of the club unless you're part of the club, and so I mean, Cat Williams. Has said that very clearly. They rock with who they rock with, and they don't. And if they're rocking with you, then you're rocking with them, and that's just the reality of what that place is. And there are I had somebody interviewing me this week, and they were asking that same questions. Sarah, what do I think? And of course, I'm nobody in that circle, but just from what I can surmise. If you are A-list, yes, 100%. If you are B-list, probably, 80%. If you're C-list, a little less. If you're D-list, you might not be. But most of the people know. They know if they're in those. They know that there are hierarchy. They know that there are things going on.
Yeah.
But they're not. Go ahead.
I was saying, Cat Williams said when he walks into a room, people drop their heads because they know. They know he knows, and they know he's not part of the club. And so I find it very interesting, too. He said 2024 is when they're going down. And I mean, that was last year, year before. So if people don't think it's actually, we're just talking, just talking smack. Like, I think it's becoming pretty obvious, and it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, it's real quiet though. It's really interesting. They've gone quiet, and everything has to be set in the right place for it to take place. Because first of all, you have to have the people even talking about trafficking, because it was not talked about 4 years ago as it is now. Even the celebrity thing was not talked about the way it is today. Also the parties and the thing, and and a lot of the celebrities have spoken out too, and so that takes time to cultivate the conversation. So these things don't happen overnight. But the beautiful thing is, and I think because we're all people of God and we are all people of the light of God, it's happening quicker. It's happening quicker with people who are woken up. And I think that's what's so beautiful, because we have to understand our own participation in this awakening can make things actually happen in a much quicker way than otherwise if we were half asleep. And so the frequencies that we have, how we move in a room, how we relate to one another, how we even put what posts we put up, like everything we do contributes to that journey of how we're spiraling up, or how we're how we're elevating and ascending up, or how we're spiraling down. And so, the beautiful thing is, and the ones who the legacy media, when they try to take it down, there's millions of people around the world who are the news. So they can fact check and they can put stuff out, sourced things. I only put sourced stuff out. And people can challenge on me and I'll have an answer for them, tell you that. So that's the beautiful thing, is that we are so much quicker now that the legacy media can't keep up with us, because their numbers are going down the toilet. Even since that debate, that guy, the moderator, his numbers went down to so everything is imploding, which is brilliant. And then Greg Gutfeld, who had Trump on Gutfeld as a surprise for an hour, the highest rated show on television in the whole of the entire industry. If that doesn't tell you what's happening, and meanwhile, all the others are just about to go extinct. Even one of the biggest late night shows had to cut down a day because they don't have the numbers. And I used to know a lot of people that worked on these shows. So they're not getting it. People are so like, any of these fake news that tell you that this race is tight, they're lying. That's just for the legacy media, right? Putting that out there. That doesn't mean we don't have to work hard, because one of the things that I don't know if you've talked about this before, Sarah and the others, is the two groups, and this is where I think all four of you could really, really push this point. The two groups that don't vote the most, 40% of Christians do not vote, and the NRA, the gun people. So even though they're behind,
which is wild to me. It's so
that's
wild.
crazy.
Really wild. So that's why if you notice Trump at the rallies, he's really getting the message out that the Christians need to go out and vote, and so do the NRA people. They have to go. And he said, well, maybe, the NRA people, the gun people are rebelling, right? Maybe they don't trust government. He actually comes out and says it, which I love about it. But we got to get those people to go out and vote, because I have some friends, maybe we have some mutual friends, Sarah, I don't know, even though they may want their utopic vision of how they think things should be. If they do not want communists to run the country, go out and vote. Oh, they're like, right. Oh, well, my vote doesn't matter. Well, yeah, actually it does, because have been so many measures put in place, and everything's being tracked. So that is why this idea of like to do this now, honestly, everybody who does that deserves what's coming if they're going to have that kind of attitude.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. So
statistic. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just say really quickly. I used to actually think that the votes didn't matter, that people were being installed. But if the votes didn't matter, they wouldn't try to steal. It's so hard. They wouldn't have to rig an election if the votes didn't matter. So your vote does matter. Yeah, go out.
Part of the manipulation. To make you believe that it doesn't matter. That's part of the lie we've been told, and obviously we know there's some truth to it. But I was just going to say, I just recently was going over numbers of, like, gun owners that don't vote, Christians that don't vote, farmers that don't vote. There's these groups of people who believe in the values of this country, who can't stand what's happening, but they just put their head in the sand, and it's like a culture. These gun owners, man. Somebody said if California gun owners would vote, it would be a landslide, a red state, because
100%.
there's just this culture within the NRA that doesn't vote, and it's really the root problem of why our elections are so close.
Agreed. 100%. And also to remember, they're going to cheat at the post office, right? So now they're like, they can't print 20 million ballots so quickly because this thing isn't even close. It still takes effort and labor to print 20 million fake ballots, right? It still takes a long time. So that's why when Trump says, go out and vote, even if you don't like me, it's either this or communism. And nobody wants communism, right?
Right.
So that's why.
That's what I was saying the other day. Yeah. It's not Trump and Kamala. It is communism versus the constitutionalism.
Exactly.
It's our constitutional rights versus communism. And that's literally what we're doing.
And, another thing that I think we've all seen is just how much they're willing to do to stop Trump in every single way that they can. Most recently with this last attempt on his life, and it's so sad, and it makes them look so bad at this point. And then I don't know if you guys have seen the letter that the DOJ released from the shooter, offering $150,000 on, like, and nobody's going to do anything about that. They're just going to put that out there. Like, it's insane how much they're doing. They're doing all the things to make sure that Trump doesn't get elected again. And it's ridiculous. It's so sad and so desperate. Like,
we ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
No, of what's coming.
Yeah.
Got 42 more days. 42 days.
Man,
and it's going to get up. It's going to ramp up.
42 days before things go really crazy, because either Trump's going to win and part of the country is going to go absolutely bananas and the deep state is going to arrive, or Kamala is going to get in and we're all just going to go straight to communism, and it's going to be crazy.
I've seen another video, and I had it up and I forgot to tag it so I can bring it up to you guys right now. But it was people in some kind of meeting saying they're going to be in for a real shock on January whenever we have to tell them that Trump is disqualified from the presidency, and then there's going to be civil war tactics at hand. Everybody's going to go, head to head, face to face. It's a really, really scary time that we're living in right now. And people who aren't taking it seriously, who aren't prepping in any sort of way, I feel that they're going to be in for a really rude awakening. I was talking to another friend earlier today. On October 1st, all of the port workers supposedly are going on strike.
Yep.
People who don't realize how much of an impact that's going to have on literally everything in our everyday life.
Yeah.
What workers? What did you say, Courtney?
The port
workers.
The supply chain.
Oh,
yeah.
That's happening in October.
October 1st, they're supposed to go on strike.
Mm-hmm.
And
didn't see that.
And then our administration said that they would not get involved in that. So, it's literally our entire supply chain, entire supply chain from top to bottom in every way that people can think of, and they don't even think about that. And that's why people are so distracted, by everything else that's going on. Like you guys were saying earlier, it's a distraction, but a distraction from what? And people don't care enough to look into what they're being distracted from.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Right.
I think to answer to what you were saying, Courtney, the distractions is one thing I would love to say to the audiences out there, and it is my perspective and my perspective based on what I'm seeing overseas as well, is this. This is a hard awakening for Americans who have been generally really terrible with international politics. The average American. Now they're getting to see how now it's going to affect their lives. So what I would love to just kind of, in a non-fear way, because again, the fear feeds the frenzy. So we can be prepared. We can be steady. We can hold the line. But watching international news is very important, because what's happening overseas has an impact here. So what we're seeing right now is obviously they're sending more troops to the Middle East. The draft conversation is on the table, and it may or may not happen, but don't be fooled that this regime that we have and all the puppet masters above them they will send anyone and everyone. And this was on the table very recently, and it's also come into conversation again about putting the draft on the table. It may not happen. Who knows, right? Now, the good news is there's a balancing tip going here. Doesn't mean it's not going to get a little crazy, but Trump, the alliances, and again, we're working with about 30 plus other countries, they do not want the tipping point to go upside down. That creates a worldwide chaos that it can't actually recover from. And I think when you go into conversations of economics and the geopolitical world and how countries work with each other, nobody really wants that, because everything could spiral and it would be 100 times worse than people can even think. So there are a lot of plays going on right now. For every move we have, yes, the cabal has their counter move. We have more moves on our side. However, they are still going to do what they want to do. So they're going to push their agenda. They're going to push their agenda, which is why we have to lead with sobriety. We have to lead with being informed. We have to be careful we're not feeding the fear. We have to get educated about international affairs as well, because whether we like it or not, America will be called into play, and the average American, I think, will be scared out of its mind. And also, I would say probably the most prominent thing is being very careful how we are also feeding into the fear that they want us to have. That's a big part of this. So I can't stress that strongly enough. So be mindful of all of that. Even myself too. I mean, I can watch things and I'm not attached to them, but that's my temperament and that's who I am. Everybody's different. I'm not afraid, but I am cautious, right? Like now they're doing stuff with the planes. I don't know if you all heard about this.
Yes.
Right? They're messing with the planes with this almost like an electrical interference with commercial planes.
Yeah.
So there were some commercial flights in the air that they were told they had in the ground control were told the planes had arrived, but they were still in the middle of the ocean, right? And they were messing with it. So some of the signals went off completely. So I think just be mindful of, and again, I don't believe you should live in fear, but I think you should be prepared to a degree. You know, just common sense preparations. Don't put yourself in soft targets all the time. Just little things like that.
Yeah, 100%. That's absolutely right. And I feel like, we can't live in fear, but we can, and scripturally, that's, my platform, because it's what I stand on is the word of God. And scripturally, we are to take no thought for tomorrow, what we will eat or drink or put on, for our Father in heaven knows that we need these things and he will provide them. He will. That is a promise for his children and for believers. But we also need to not, we need to not live in fear. We need to not, live in this state of constant putting out this negative energy. But also we do need to not put ourselves in places of incredible danger during these times and just be, like Jesus said, be as peaceful as doves and as cunning as serpents. And we have to right now. Yeah, you have to be smart and peaceful. So, speaking of global weird stuff, does anyone know much about the UN vote that took place this last week? It was unanimously voted on, and there's some, seemingly okay, humanitarian stuff within what they voted, but then also some potentially open doors for crazy totalitarianism to take over. So does anyone have much to say about that?
I have a couple of perspectives to share about what I'm watching, because I watch a lot of international news because I have family all over the bloody place. And so just for the audience to know who may not know, the situation in Europe is they are further down the road of the New World Order. So they're further along. America has their US Constitution and the Second Amendment, which makes a huge difference.
Huge
difference. It is the reason why we're not like where Europe is right now.
Correct.
So in Europe right now, because they don't have a Second Amendment and a USA Constitution, they have a Constitution, but it has nothing of what we have here. They're further along there. So with what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, and they're trying to make you believe that Ukraine's winning, they're not. In fact, the Azov battalion in Ukraine, which are not Ukrainians, they're a bunch of fascists. They've overtaken the country. So that's why all the cabal money gets hidden over there, right? It's their little playground over there. So they're really wanting to push war. They're trying to push war in the Middle East. They're trying to push war in Ukraine, Russia. They're trying to push war in Taiwan, China, right? So it's a big shite show, as I like to say. So with this UN, they're really trying to get, like with the G20, they're really trying to get the deep state players to push the play for war.
Yes.
So and this is what's funny to me when people like don't understand, saying, why did Trump go after the UN? Because, America was paying like 170, like if it was billion, why were they paying that of the 250, right? Like the other countries were not putting their share in. So what they're doing now, if you look at a lot of European countries like Germany, I think Italy and maybe France, we'll see what happens with England. England's in a hot mess right now. Those three countries that I mentioned, they actually are reverting more to a conservative languaging, and they actually have new leaders that lean more conservatively for the first time in a long time. They have mass immigration, which is absolutely, by the way, for the audience who may not know this, did you know that they reroute the illegals from Europe and then they send them to America? That's what they do. So they were emptying out Europe and they're bringing them here. So that's why with the UN and all the countries that are pushing, for this war machine to take place, they want this to happen. The people there are fighting back, but they're further along to the Green New Deal, the 2030 agenda, and all of that rubbish. And that's really that I feel bad for them. And I even have family that renounced me like years ago who are now watching and listening to stuff that I'm doing and posting because I think they're being hit by it right now. So yeah, the UN has a lot of good people, but the UN is a cover. I mean, look who's leading it. I mean, he is Tedros. He is he's a war criminal. He butchered so many of his own people, and now he's leading the UN. So yeah, this vote will be interesting. I need to dig a bit deeper into it. But what's happening in Europe, I think they're at their end. England right now, if you look at certain images of England, you think you're in Antifada, Hezbollah, Hamas territory. Literally the whole, like thousands and thousands and thousands, like in the streets of London. And you're like, okay, where are all the English people? So it's scary what's happening right now, but just know they're emptying them out into the US too.
And, I think that we see that. I just did a podcast. Actually, John and I traveled to Springfield, Ohio, because it's not too far from where I am. and we just filmed for 2 days. John talked to a few people. They didn't want to be on camera, understandably, whatever. But there's a lot more coming out about that entire ordeal, more than just the Haitian invasion. It's the missing women and children. It's the trafficking. It's the $600,000 real estate building that they were able to purchase. It's all of these things.
Trafficking.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And people want to think, like you mentioned it before, they don't want to listen to what we've said is happening the last, amount of years. And now that's going to be in their face. They're going to be in for a shock. But I did a podcast with one of my friends. She's in Alabama, and the little city town that she lives in, they're actually importing a lot of Haitians there too. And she said they're seeing like busloads of people at like getting off buses at their local Walmart or local Home Depot or whatever, and it's completely draining their entire like little ecosystem that they have going on there. But not to completely switch over, but I did want to ask you guys, what do you guys know or what have you heard about October 7th and us needing to be prepared for that? Because I was just reading earlier today that the Israeli military is like doubling down on all of their threats. And you just mentioned it, Sarah, that I don't know if I can bring it back up, the Hezbollah terrorist organizations in southern Lebanon, that they are conducting strikes on terror targets all around. And it's been like the most impacts since 10/7 last year.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. They're spreading the war. They're spreading the war because now they're going. Okay, so Iran, and because Camel Toe and Bye Bye, they fueled it. They gave money to Iran again, which is what Trump had starved them off, right? So they had the money to give to Hamas. So the Iranian government, so Hamas is like an arm of the Iranian Islamic State, right? And so now they are in Lebanon, and they are and they're all over. But now they're spreading because they need to keep moving out to cause more chaos. And that's going to affect Iran and how Iran gets involved. So it starts to snowball. Now, the reason why do you think Iran supported Camel Toe coming into the game, right? Because why? Because they know they can push the fake sympathy they have for Palestinians and all of that. It's all BS. They don't care about anybody. And they're all part of the same, there's certain players in Mossad and Netanyahu. I know a lot of Americans need to wake up to that what you're seeing in Israel is not what is actually happening. There's a lot of totally fake Jews over there that are not real Jews that have taken over that country. Right. So people need to wake up to that. But again, that's they're not going to talk about that on mainstream television at all yet. They're not going to do that. So this blind supporting some of these dark players in the Knesset, which is the government body in Israel, is very, very, very naive in many ways. But then again, that's what happens when you don't really look at international politics, right? It's easy to just, oh yeah, Israel. But you got to be careful. Like, what exactly are you doing? Israel's on the verge of civil war themselves over there. So you're going to see this push happen because they need a war. They need a war because they need to cover up their crimes. And so they were going to push that. You've got Hamas working with Iran, working with the deep state players in Israel, right? Who don't actually, like I call them the fake Jews. The fake Jews, they don't care about the Israeli people. They don't care about the Palestinian people who are just trying to just not get killed, right? So
Right.
because I have friends of mine who are Israeli and who are Palestinian who work together, who
Mhm.
are helping each other, but you never hear that on the news because they're pushing the war machine. It's
Well,
terrible.
and we have to, and not just the people that are standing unequivocally for Israel and not realizing the nuances there. The same is true with people who are standing for Palestine against Israel. You're
Yep.
not realizing that you're standing against people that really are, there really is, and I'm not a Zionist, but I am someone who stands with God. I stand with Yahweh, and I stand with Yahweh's chosen people, and those are Hebrew Israelites that are of the line of Jacob. Well, of the line of Jacob, whose name became Israel. That is who I stand with. But Sarah, you're absolutely correct. And in the Bible, biblically, Revelation 2 verse 9 and 3 verse 9 says
Yes.
that sitting at the helm of Israel in Revelation time is what the Bible calls the synagogue of Satan.
Yep.
And it is not the God's chosen. And so what I find are people that are either all or nothing, baby out with the bathwater, throw this out. And if you're against all of Israel, then you're against God. And it's like, no, dude, listen, first of all, read your Bible. Secondly, then, get into the nuances of what we're talking about here, because there is
100%.
a lot. You can stand with Israel, which I do. I'm a person who absolutely stands with Israel, with the Hebrew Israeli Jews
Mhm.
that are the chosen people of Yahweh, not the synagogue of Satan.
No. And to add to what you're saying, Sarah, this is very important, I think, for people to understand, and they may not understand it right now, and that's okay. But as somebody who has lived with this my entire life, I mean, it's in my family, for crying out loud. And I've, been in this subject for, sometimes I just walk away from the subject because it's so depressing. But when you think about the Palestinian people, first of all, I don't think I think a lot of Americans, I'm going to just focus on America because a lot of countries abroad actually know a lot more about this subject than Americans do, is a lot of Palestinians are actually Christian. So a lot of people don't know that. And there are many beautiful, people who live in these areas, who are Palestinian, who live in these areas. And it is a difficult life. It is a difficult life. But what I would have to say, there's bad players on every side.
Correct.
War is very, very complicated. It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah.
So the Palestinians are, I'm not going to say the word, but it's what you hear people call Black people, the derogatory. They are the N-word of the Middle East, okay? They are the Ners of the Middle East, and I'll explain why. The people who live in that part of the world have been treated like shite for decades, particularly by other fellow Arabs, okay? A lot of people in the Middle East do not want the Palestinian problem because after decades of being in war, a percentage of people become so traumatized. They become so traumatized, it's very hard to function. Imagine if your house was blowing up every day, and same for Israelis too. They're also traumatized people as well. So your house is blowing up, you have missiles coming down, there's dead children everywhere, there's mothers. I mean, it's a horrible situation. And Yasser Arafat, who was, one of the leaders of the PLO with the fellow Palestinians, that guy is such a mother effing blah, 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 because he took the Palestinians' money and went to Paris with $16 billion. And do you think he even gave a rat's what about the Palestinian people? Absolutely not. So people in that part of the world have been used and abused on both sides. The state of Israel was created, and I'm not going to get into the details because that's a whole other show. The state of Israel was a false sense of security that was created. Churchill, if people think Churchill's so fantastic, wait till you really see what happened in the Second World War. It is not what people think. It's not what they teach you in school, I tell you that. And there's a reason why they call Trump Hitler all the time, but that's for another show. But anyway, but going back to Israel, it is a false sense of security for the Hebrew Jews who were infiltrated by the Sabbatean death cult and the Khazarians, who are the fake Jews, who have gone in there, and they've gone everywhere. They've gone into every industry because they're not who you think they are. They are called the name stealers for a reason, because they infiltrated not just Jews, they infiltrated Christianity, they infiltrated Islam, they infiltrated a lot of the different religions around the world, and they are brutal, brutal people. But now the problem is it's like cake mix, right? It's cake mix. Like now it's like trying to undo cake mix. How do you undo cake mix? Right? So that's why when Sarah was saying it's a very nuanced problem. And I have to say, listen, I am sick and tired of even Fox on the news, always only mentioning one side. I'm sick and tired of that. They shouldn't be doing that because everybody's suffering. Everybody is suffering.
Yeah, but who owns the station though? That's the thing, is that the people who own these stations are they're not gonna shill for the other side. They're gonna shill for their own side. And so, you know, in the industry, and you even heard Kanye talk about this, and he was blasted as being, you know, anti-Semitic. But again, people didn't realize that there is there are nuances. There are infiltrators within that that sector
100%.
that he's referencing. Not all, you know, not all people, and not even the people that are the real you know, children of Israel.
Jewish.
And so that's
it's a heavy topic, and
it's a very heavy topic. Yeah.
And if I may add, I want to give a perspective here because I think it's very interesting, and I'll tell you why I feel confident to talk about this. I was raised in a multi-religious family. I'm incredibly international. I also have friends, and I have sat with probably some really beautiful people in different faiths. And I have seen from a geopolitical, spiritual, religious perspective just how insane some of these things are. I have a lot of Jewish friends too. In fact, one of my sisters who Sarah got to meet, Jody, and when she was here, she is talking to her Jewish community because I tell you, this is a very important conversation that is happening now among truthers in the Jewish faith. They are waking up to the fact that they've been lied to as well. We've all been lied to. No one group gets to escape not questioning what happened to them. And I think that's where we really need to set the standard, that we have all been lied to. And it is up to us to really open the blinkers up and take a look at everything. And now, slowly, we're no way there. Now, I was talking to another friend of mine who is not religious. And she said, I don't understand why they just don't wake up. And I said, let me tell you what the problem is and why it's going to take time. You have to understand, when you have been in the slumber of your religious practice for thousands of years, and suddenly somebody comes and tells you, hey, dude, what you thought was real, there's a little diceiness going on, you've been lied to. That is a shock to the system. That's going to take time, and it will take a level of compassion, understanding. And like Sarah said earlier, it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but it's about recognizing that pain that is going to be, people are going to go through almost like a near-death experience, because it is very painful to think you had these things happening and you were doing things for a certain way for probably, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years. And then suddenly it's like, boom, certain things are changing. So, it's a process, and it's very painful. And that's why I have compassion for any faith and anyone who's on any side of this war. We have to connect as human beings, as children of God, because the gaps and the bridges are very, very wide. And we don't want to destroy ourselves in this process.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Yeah.
Really, really fast. I just wanted to interject. I was just, I got a notification that Dr. Sherry Tenpenny had put out a reel or a live, and going back to the UN vote or the UN, the General Assembly, whatever it is this weekend or this week, whatever that's going on right now. Something else that they voted on is that everybody will be expected to have a digital ID
Yep.
within the next couple of years.
Yep.
If not by next year. I was just trying to read through it really fast so I could bring it up and see what you guys think about that. Darren, what do you think about that? You've been kind of quiet this whole thing. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think, the solution isn't an election. It's not whatever's happening. The solution is God, and God's going to move his hand. And
Yeah.
the closer we get to him and lean into him, and we pray and we he's going to move his hand. This United States we have a covenant with God. This is his country. He's not finished with us. And, but he wins. So we have to get closer to him. What's interesting with the UN, and I'm not real familiar with it, but I am familiar that, all these illegal immigrants have come in. They've been shipping them in and flying them in and putting them in these blue states. And there's like these terrorist cells now. And, they've been giving them phones and money, and, they're going to potentially, they could activate them and cause a disruption in an LA, in a Chicago, and in New York City, and create this chaos in our country, which, I don't know what the UN's, if we're in crisis or in, this mass craziness, is that when the UN will be allowed to come in? And that was something I was thinking about when you mentioned the UN.
Yeah. And that's so, and again, all of this is very, still kind of covert, and it's not made clear to us who are not sitting at the summit. But our futures are being voted on by these representatives there. And, but what is released out, and what I found very interesting is a few months ago, more than a few months ago, I watched several governors, Governor Lee in Tennessee and Governor Abbott in Texas, I believe the governor of Louisiana, I think Arkansas as well, and probably more. I think there was about 5 of them so far, but maybe more have been added, that they signed protective orders about their states, and they were signing the protective orders against the UN and the WHO, and orders that they would put out. And I found that very interesting. I thought that's kind of, of all the things that I'm sure that these governors have on their plate that are, pertinent to today, why are they signing those things ahead of time? Because they know something's coming. Because they know something's coming. And so I'm grateful to live in a state that they've signed that that's a no. that's a
video no. They know what's coming. You're right, Sarah. But I just saw that, and she talked about talking to your sheriff. Making sure that you have a constitutional sheriff and that you communicate with him, because he's ultimately the ultimate law of the land, and they're the ones that can stop this digital ID and all this other craziness, that's coming. I think if you look, the illegal stuff that Darren mentioned, the immigrants coming into the country, all the other craziness that's happening, it's like a setup for the takedown. And it all comes down to the UN, is the one world. They want one world currency. They want one world power. They want the universal IDs. So it's all like being set up. And as we get nearer to it, it's more obvious. And, I said earlier, there's people that won't wake up, but there's also a mass awakening. And I think it's going to really speed up over the next 2 months, hopefully. But it's becoming very obvious what they're wanting to do. And the more, and that's our hope, I guess, that as they become more obvious, people will see more clearly, and it will wake people out of their slumber, because and truly the solution is God. I mean, there is no political solution for the war we're facing. It is a spiritual battle, and we have to believe that for those people watching, maybe you're discouraged and how can we stop this? And it's so big and there's no way out of it. Um, you know, just remind yourself that we are in a spiritual battle and that the solution is spiritual. And that's where, throughout history, the biggest battles were won, the Red Sea moment, right? And I believe America is ready and is about to experience a Red Sea moment. I really have
100%.
to believe that.
100%. And Darren, Jason, what you said resonates so clearly, because what I would love to say to the American audience out there is, please remember how many people love this country that don't live in this country.
Yeah.
There are Trump rallies all over the world. There was there was one in Japan.
I was going to say Japan,
this weekend,
South
right?
Korea,
South Korea, Africa,
Mm-hmm.
in England, like in Europe. There are Trump rallies everywhere because they know the truth. They don't want to live under this New World Order Agenda 2030 either. Most human beings want to be free. That is an innate right it's a God right? It's a God-given right to be free as a human being. And so please be encouraged that we are so much closer than we know. The television, us being shadow banned, they all try to make you think that, they're winning, but they'll push it for sure. But, God is in control. Goodness, love will win this battle. And we are mostly there, but it's like that image of the man or the woman, whoever, axing their way through the tunnel. And he gets to that last final inch and he goes, I give up. But on the other side is the diamond, right? So that's where we are right now. We are at the final battle. For any of us to get lazy right now, to get complacent right now, if you're tired, sit down, get up, dust yourself off, say a few bloody prayers, and get out there on the battlefield and keep doing what we're supposed to be doing.
That's right. And also don't give up.
The breakthrough.
That's right. Don't give up. Don't give up.
There is so much amazing things on the other side of this war. Trump actually talked about that for 1 year. He talked about he wants a jubilee for 1 year in America, state to state. He wants to bring the state fairs back. Yeah. From the Tartarians and all that. So there is so much on the other side of this war. So please, people out there, don't get discouraged. That's what the devil wants. That's what these demons want. They feed off of the fear. I laugh at them. I'm like, I spit on you. You are nothing compared to the power of God.
That's right.
Nothing compared to that power. God is love. And
love
I will say, way more powerful.
Yeah, and I will say too, don't get self-righteous in this. Don't get self-righteous in this battle, thinking that, I'm not going to wake anybody else up. I'm tired of, getting this message out there. Nobody's listening now. I'm just going to wake sleeping lions, or whatever the phrase may be, because it is frustrating. It's frustrating when, if your family is not listening, if your friends aren't listening, sometimes you feel like a lonely island out here. But the fact of the matter is that you are awake for a reason. And if you're watching this right now, and we do have several people watching, if you are awake right now, you're awake for a reason, and you've been chosen for this very moment. And so don't give up. You don't know when somebody else might wake up or what moment it is, and you've been chosen to use what you've been given for good. And there was a big movement in this truther movement called Lions Not Sheep, and that was a very and I get it, people really wanted to feel empowered, but it was a false empowerment, because in the book of Isaiah, it says that we are all like sheep who have gone astray, and that there is only one lion, and that is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And he alone, Revelation 5:5, it says that the Lion of the tribe of Judah, he alone has won the victory, and he alone is worthy to open the scrolls. And that is the lion that we need to follow. So it is lions and sheep, but we are all like sheep. And the people who are still sleeping, they are also sheep. And we need to realize that we are all the prey from the wolves, and keep vigilant. Like Jesus said, you have to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. And in this battle, it is a spiritual battle. And so to keep your eyes spiritually, keep on your spiritual armor, the armor that is in Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 talks that we are not battling against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and rulers in dark places. And that is what we need to keep in mind. And so we need to put on that helmet of salvation and that breastplate of righteousness and gird ourselves with truth. And, that truth, girding yourself with truth, not opinion. There's only one truth. There's not your truth and my truth. There's only truth, and everything else is opinion. So you need to gird yourself with truth, put on the good news of Jesus on your feet, and then you need to pull out that two-edged sword, which is your weapon, and that is the word of God, and then get on your knees, because that is how we fight our battle. And so with that being said, we are an hour and a half into this incredible conversation. And I'm so grateful, you guys, for those of you who are watching live, and, for all of you who are going to watch this later, because we're on so many different platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in and being part of the conversation. We are trying to go every week, but, we've got a lot of people here and we've got lives going on simultaneously to live streaming and everything that's going on. So if you catch us live, we'll try and be more scheduled about it, but whatever it is what it is.
So we can take.
Yeah, we jump on when we can. So anyway, all right, well, thank you guys. Thank you. And so before I close out, Courtney, do you have anything? Yeah, you see the crown on top of my head here. Darren, do you have anything? Jason, you want to close out? Sarah. So let's start with Courtney. Courtney.
So I actually do have something going on. It's nothing related. I mean, kind of for you guys. I am doing a live auction for, if you guys can see, it's right here, the Commander's artist. He does all these amazing prints, and Darren has one too in his background. His name's Michael Marone, and I have, he does all these amazing magazines. Andrew Magazine. If you guys follow Nina Rodriguez, he is on one of these. I am doing a live auction for his prints sometime soon. It's very in the baby beginning steps of this live auction, but I would absolutely love for all of you to share the link whenever it's live. These are amazing. They go to an amazing cause. It's just amazing. And thank you guys so much for tuning in, for listening to what we have to talk about. I think it's very, very important for people to turn to alternative media. And if you listen to this right now, if you have something to say and you're afraid to say it anyway, because the people that listen to you, the people that follow you, the people that are friends with you on your platforms, they trust you. So if you have something to say, make it loud. It starts with you. One person can start an entire wave of things.
That's right.
Amen.
Thank you, Courtney. That was so good. Okay, Darren, you're up. How do you want to close us out?
Well, I just say thank you for watching. Lean into God, get closer to Him. And I want to do a quick shout out to The Flame, Anna Kane and Nicole Orozco. If you haven't checked out The Flame, it's theflameusa.com. Spreading the truth like wildfire. They share, it's a newspaper that they distribute nationally. So check out theflameusa.com.
Yeah, I just had them on. We just went live last week with them, and I invited them to our live stream tonight. They had other things in their life going on, but both of them want to come on. So one of these weeks within our live stream, Anna or Nicole or both are going to join us in that. And they are theflameusa.com, the Flame paper. If you didn't watch that podcast, scroll down on my page, you'll see it. And it's an amazing publication. They're, another getting the truth out there via the news.
Yeah. And so Get on the Ark's about to have its 100th episode. Anna Kane's going to be my 100th episode.
Wow. Cool.
It's going to be, also the beginning of a new podcast. It'll be The Flame and the Ark together. And
That's
so
awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, wonderful.
you
Congrats.
get people,
Wow.
and we're gonna get people spread the truth like wildfire. So
Join forces. I love it. I
love
love it. Well, thank you. Okay, Jason, what's your final
All right.
thought?
Well, first, I just want to say I applaud you, Sarah, for what you're doing, and all of you guys that are spreading truth. It's at our group a couple weeks ago, I told the group, I said, I understand, when the enemy is trying to wear out the saints, and he really wants you to quit and give up, and all the way in every level. But this thing about, I know so many people who say they're not going to vote. It doesn't matter. They're stealing it. We can never win the battle. This is
Yes.
beyond elections, and it's a way of wearing you down and getting you to quit. And don't quit before the miracle happens. That's the
Sure.
line that we heard a lot in addiction. I went through addiction, and it's like, don't quit before the miracle happens. And guys, in that reference to what's happening with P. Diddy and the Epstein stuff, it takes years to build these cases, years to bring something of this size down. And I really believe that's what's happening. So don't quit. Don't give up. Don't quit believing. Don't quit praying. And we are close to a breakthrough.
Don't stop believing.
Come on. There you go. That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
But I love that song. It's good, man. But I want to make another comment about Israel. When you guys were talking about Israel, just real quick. So many of my friends who are Christians, they either are Zionists and they think Netanyahu is the greatest prophet, since coming of Jesus, or they think that Israel's evil. And I believe the truth is somewhere in the middle. I have just recently been shifting my perspective on it, that both sides are extreme. And I would encourage people that think, believe one side or the other, do a little deeper digging and don't fall for the extremism, one side, the other, divide and conquer. That's the goal. That's what they're trying to do. So I just want to throw that out there. And I'll close just with saying, please support your local podcast, support your local businesses, go out of your way to make donations to little organizations, use people's codes. Courtney has a code for for lots of different stuff. She has, now I can't think of the one, but the survival gear, survival food. Courtney, what's it called?
The Patriot Supply.
Patriot Supply. I know so many friends who have these codes, and just find ways to support them, because what is coming, there's lots of changes, and if you believe that in the end God wins and that we are at a Red Sea moment, then it's going to look different when we get across the Red Sea. And be ready to support support your local business. Get to know your neighbors, and don't give up before the miracle happens, man. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks, Jason.
let me add one thing, just so you might not know this, but the song by Journey, "Don't Stop Believing."
Mhm.
The artist that wrote that song, God gave him that song in a dream, and so that was a song.
Wow.
Well, hey,
Beautiful.
we'll adopt that for our theme song. No.
Should do it.
So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in again to our Remedy Live podcast roundtable of the things that are going on. And, we always start out kind of with an agenda, and, whatever comes on. And so anyway, don't forget to DM your questions or, thoughts towards and write them in the comments so that we can for future live streams know what you guys want to hear or have us answer or any of that. So
Oh, Sarah,
anyway.
one thing before may I just have a closing say for the people?
Yes.
So just real quick, there are people fighting in the air. There are people fighting on the ground. There are people fighting under the ground. And first of all, thank you, Sarah, for inviting us and these beautiful warriors who you see here. If you feel like I'm not doing enough, when you wake up in the morning and you have air in your lungs and you wake up with a prayer for the day, you pray, you meditate, you wake up with so much gratitude, whether you're a mom or a dad, with, cooking a beautiful meal for your children, for your husband, for your wife, nutritious, feeding your body, feeding this beautiful body that God gave you. right? Having beautiful conversations. These are little things you can do, making sure you're not around people that are toxic, right? Doesn't mean you have to tell them everything, but there are so many little things you can do, and that is actually doing the work too.
Yes.
So don't underestimate what you're actually contributing, even if you don't have a podcast or you're not in military or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, that's great. Great. And of
Amen.
course, you know, when you're like, wake up, you know, when you wake up in the morning and I think, wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy. And oh my gosh, I
Can't
hope
say
that
that no
none of
more.
us, I hope none of us ever wake up in the morning feeling like that fool.
Nope.
Okay. So you guys, thank you
That's
so
good.
much for tuning in. You know, I got to keep it real. So anyway, we're going to end the live stream here. Thank you so much. And you guys, as always, I love you. Peace.